What's up everyone, my name's PlatinumHowler, coach of your Delta Gligars. Today I am bringing you the Week 2 Team Builder and Battle for the NCL, the Nimbasa City League. This week we are playing against Magic Blades and his New York Meloettas. You can see his team over on the right side of the screen. We do have a team builder for this week, so I will go a little more in depth on why we are bringing certain mons with certain moves and EV spreads and whatnot. But sadly next week we'll be back to just the battle, no team builder, because I did not build that team for myself. But I didn't really build this team for myself from scratch either, but I did have, like, this was the build so far out of the first 3 games that I have contributed to the most myself. I've had way more help from my front office in the early going of this season than I should, but that's the point that we're at. I definitely need to work on making time for myself to create my own builds so I can make better content for these videos, because I want to be showing off my builds, not somebody else's builds that I just kind of took from and threw them together. I want to be showing off my builds, my creations. Anyways, so for this matchup, we'll just get right into the 6 mons that we're bringing in and why I decided to bring them. So Ash-Greninja is pretty much, generally speaking, the best mon on my team. It's going to have good matchups in most of the time. Pretty much every week it's going to have a decent matchup. So that's the first mon that you throw onto the team, and you just create the best set possible for that, for the best mon in the matchup. Really, that's pick. Look at the team matchup. You see a Pokemon that has the best. You think has a really good matchup, the best matchup or whatever, make the best set for that mon, build around it, make sure that the rest of your team complements that one mon that you're building around. Anyways, so we have enough speed on this Greninja. I believe see, you look at our stats here, right? It says 145 attack, 153 special attack. Keep in mind that before Battle Bond activates on Ash-Greninja, this is actually 95, 103, and 122. So, Talonflame actually is faster than 122, but it's not faster than 132. So once we get our Battle Bond form, we will always be faster than a max speed Talonflame. And even before our Battle Bond form, the only thing other than that we will need to be faster than is the Mega Gallade at base 110 speed. So if you're using, this is kind of a weird Pokemon to EV your speed stat with, because you're having to think about two different base speed stats, which is not something you're going to commonly have to do. If you are using a Mega Pokemon whose speed stat changes, though, that is also something that you'll want to think about. So, like if you're using Mega Heracross, for example, Mega Heracross actually gets slower when it Mega Evolves. So you might want to put EVs in it to outspeed certain things while it has a base speed stat of 85 before it Mega Evolves. Even though when it does Mega Evolve, its base speed stat is going to drop to base 75. So, that's really the only scenarios where you're gonna have to think about that. But for fast offensive mons, you're pretty much gonna put in as much EVs into speed that you need to make sure that you're moving before the other Pokemon on your opponent's team, and then you're gonna just put all the investment into attack. Anything left over from speed usually goes into HP just to survive hits a little tiny bit better. But yeah, so Water Shuriken priority is going to hit everything first, in case he brings anything with a Choice Scarf. to outspeed to make sure that they can move before Greninja, like a Choice Scarf Eternal Floette, for example, could be a thing that he brings, because Eternal Floette, being a fairy type, can hit Greninja super effectively, so it can outspeed it with the Choice Scarf and KO it. So Water Shuriken to get a little bit of chip off against that thing before it can move is really nice. Surf and Dark Pulse just hit really hard, and then Ice Beam is basically only there. Well, actually not really. It can hit Shaman super effectively, which would otherwise be able to one-shot the Greninja, and can also hit the Kommo-o super effectively, which same thing could otherwise one-shot the Greninja. The Wise Glasses item is going to boost all of Greninja's special attacks by 10%, which it's probably not the best item choice overall for Greninja in this game, and I will get into why when we move on to the battle. But for now, let's move on to this Bronzong set. Eternal Floette, I mentioned this before, is not something you see very commonly in your draft leagues. It's a Pokemon that has never been released, and it's something you don't really play against, like, at all. So it's a kind of a weird mon to prep for, but it actually can hit extremely hard. It has I think it has like a base 126 special attack stat or something like that, which is pretty darn good. And it gets a signature move called Light of Ruin, which is a base 140 power fairy type move that actually hurts Eternal Floette. It does recoil damage to it, actually. So like if it does 200 damage to the opponent, it's actually going to lose 100 HP of its own. It takes 1/2 recoil is basically what that means. So because that thing can hit super hard, it's important to make sure that we have Pokemon on our team that can take hits from its very powerful attack. So Bronzong here, our Steel type, can resist fairy type attacks. We have absolute max investment in special defense to take that hit as best as we possibly can. So Gyro Ball is our Steel move of choice. That's going to hit the Eternal Floette for super effective damage. We can set up Stealth Rocks, Entry Hazards to just get a little bit of chip damage on everything on his team. We have Psychic, which is our secondary stab option. That's going to be super effective against the Nidoqueen and the Kommo-o. Kommo-o, it's important to make sure that we can hit for some damage so that it can't freely click setup moves in front of us. Like, it has a ton of different setup options that it can go for. Clangorous Soul, which is a omni-boosting move. It will boost all of its stats by 1 stage each at the cost of losing 1/3 of its health. That is allowed. It can use that. So it's very important that we have moves on our Pokemon that can deal damage to Kommo-o, so it can't just set up for free like that. Our last move is Rock Slide, and our complements, it goes with our item Occaberry. Talonflame is a flying type and fire type, right? So we would be using our Steel type to resist flying type attacks a lot of the time. However, this particular flying type also has very powerful fire type moves, and that's super effective on our Bronzong. So we chose Occaberry as our item because Occaberry is going to allow us to take reduced damage from a super effective fire type hit just one time. If we get hit with a fire move, we will eat our Occaberry, and we will take instead of taking super effective damage for that one turn, we just take regular damage. So that's that could allow us to live an attack that we otherwise might not live if we weren't holding the berry, and then we'll be able to get a 4-time super effective Rock Slide off against the Talonflame because it is very weak to Rock type moves. So the next mon on our team is going to be Thundurus. This was honestly not very well EV'd. It should have been max speed to guarantee outspeed Mega Gallade because we are naturally 1 point faster. We have base 111 speed, whereas Mega Gallade has base 110. And this can deal a lot of damage to the Mega Glade because we have Power Herb Fly, which is something that could potentially catch him off guard. It's not something that you would usually expect from a Thundurus, just because Fly being a 2-turn move is not something you see all that often. But because we have the Power Herb, 2-turn moves become a 1-turn move, and you know, we use the Power Herb, we expend it to be able to turn that 2-turn move into a 1-turn move only one time. So once our Power Herb is used up, Fly will be a 2-turn move every single time. Or if it gets knocked off by the move knockoff, then if we lose the Power Herb, then that's unfortunate, and Fly becomes a 2-turn attack. So Discharge is our electric type move of choice. We can hit certain demons on his team, such as the Talonflame, such as the Greninja for super effective damage. And we also have a 30% chance to paralyze whatever takes that hit. So stuff like Talonflame, which can actually outspeed Thundurus, and if it keeps clicking Roost against Thundurus just to try to bring its health up a little bit, then it actually loses its flying typing by clicking Roost on that turn. So Discharge actually becomes not super effective. It just does regular damage on turns that Talonflame clicks Roost and regains HP. So that's why it's really nice to have that extra paralysis chance against the Talonflame, because if it gets paralyzed, then Thundurus will be moving first and always be doing super effective damage to the Talonflame, and will always be able to take it on in a 1v1 situation. The unfortunate thing here about Thundurus is that it has a very, very poor matchup against Nidoqueen. So that's like, we can't really do any sorts of damage against Nidoqueen. But I felt like it was necessary to bring Thundurus as a defogger, as a way to get rid of my opponent's entry hazards, because you know, he has so many different options for entry hazards. He has 3 potential Stealth Rockers in Kommo-o, Nidoqueen, and Rhydon. And he also has 2 potential Spikers in Greninja and Klefki. So if he manages to get a ton of hazards up against us, then, you know, that chip damage on our team is really, really going to add up, and we don't want that to happen. So that's why we have Defog on our Thundurus. I was wanting to bring Heavy Duty Boots as the item so that we could come in on the Stealth Rocks and not get weakened by them and then get rid of them, but I felt like I needed Power Herb Fly to be able to deal damage to the Mega Glade, because we don't have very much that can outspeed and threaten that Glade for a ton of damage. If we can't threaten that thing for a ton of damage, then it's just going to be able to kind of rip through our team. So we don't want that to happen. Next up is this Mimikyu here. Mimikyu has a pretty good matchup against the top 2 Pokemon there on his team, being Mega Glade and Kommo-o. They are both fighting types, so Play Rough is going to be doing super effective damage to both of them. And it's actually 4 times super effective damage against the Kommo-o, because it's also part Dragon. And, you know, Dragon and Fighting, they're both weak to Fairy type moves, so that means it takes a whopping 4 times super effective damage. Shadow Sneak is priority. It's always going to move first, so we can get some super effective priority damage off against the Mega Glade. We also have Swords Dance to boost our attack stat, and Wood Hammer as well, so we actually don't have another ghost type move outside of Shadow Sneak. And Wood Hammer is basically exclusively for the Rhydon. Rhydon is taking 4 times super effective damage from the grass type move Wood Hammer, and that is a naturally very physically defensive Pokemon that could take hits from Mimikyu very easily, if not for us having Wood Hammer. So that's why we have it on the set. Lumberry is our item so that we can cure any status that he may have for us. If he has like a Thunder Waving Klefki, for example, or if he tries to Will-O-Wisp us with a Talonflame. You know, Mega Gallade can also carry Will-O-Wisp. That is a move that it gets, not something that it runs commonly, but it is something that he could run to try to counter my Mimikyu, which is, you know, Mega Gallade not having a very good matchup against Mimikyu, so it could bring Will-O-Wisp to get a burn off on me. It's very possible. This Haxorus here just hits his team very, very hard. Anything that doesn't outspeed Haxorus is going to be taking so much damage from any one of its 4 attacks that it has on this set. So Earthquake is hitting the Nidoqueen for super effective damage. There's Abstrika as well, the Klefki, and also Rhydon for super effective damage. Dragon Claw is its stab move. So when I say stab move, Haxorus only has one type of stab move because it only has one typing. It's pure Dragon type. So attacks that are of the Dragon typing get a 1.5 times power boost. So, you know, Mimikyu is Ghost and Fairy. It gets a 1.5 times boost in its Ghost and Fairy moves. That's why you want to really find a way to run those types of moves as often as possible, because those are the ones that are going to be doing the most damage. And it's also nice to have Dragon Claw on here because it hits his Dragon type Kommo-o super effectively. Dragons are super effective against other dragons. Yes, we fight in fire with fire out here. Poison Jab is necessary for Eternal Floette. Thankfully, we do outspeed the Floette naturally. I believe Floette's base speed is base 92, so we are a few points faster than that with the Haxorus. First Impression is another priority move, so we have priority moves on our Greninja, Mimikyu, and Haxorus to be able to hit his really fast mons for super effective damage. That's going to be really nice against the likes of Shaman, Mega Gallade, Greninja. Greninja will just drop to a First Impression. Life Orb is boosting the power of all of our moves significantly. We get a 30% power boost on all of our attacks. However, we lose 10% of our HP every time we click an attack. So this Haxorus is just, you want it to come in and do as much damage as possible, and you don't want it to take damage itself, basically, because, you know, you're wearing itself down. It's not meant to take hits, it's just meant to deal out damage. So Unnerve is the ability. The two abilities that Haxorus would want to think about are either Mold Breaker or Unnerve. You bring Mold Breaker if your opponent has abilities such as Sturdy or like Solid Rock, for example. If I were facing a Rhyperior, I might that has Solid Rock, I might bring a Mold Breaker Haxorus instead, because I would be able to hit it for more damage with the super effective Earthquake than I would if I was running Unnerve, which I am right now. But, you know, there are not really any abilities on my opponent's team that I want to negate. So instead we have Unnerve, which is cool because if we're hitting any of his Pokemon with a super effective attack, there is no chance that they can eat their damage reduction berries, similar to what we have on our Bronzong set. So if the Talonflame had the Unnerve ability, which it doesn't, but if it did get that ability, then you know, it would make it so that it could hit us with a Fire type move. We are unable to eat our Fire type reducing berry, and, you know, instead of potentially living that attack, we actually die to it. So that's why we run the Unnerve ability on Haxorus. Last but not least is this Mega Venusaur. Mega Venusaur was the last Mon put on this team because I felt like I didn't have very good ways of wearing down the Shaman. Shaman can be a very annoying Pokemon to go up against because it can it's very good at chipping a lot of things down with a Substitute and Leech Seed set, because it can just hide behind its substitute and continuously regain HP without, you know, having to do much else. It can just effortlessly sap your HP and force you to switch out into something else that and force you to make switches once your HP gets low from the lead seed. It's just it kind of gets you in a never-ending cycle that's really annoying. So that's why it's really nice to have Mega Venusaur here, because grass types are unaffected by lead seed. So we will not lose to a substitute lead seed Shaman because we have brought our Mega Venusaur here. So poison type moves, super effective on other pure grass types like Shaman, so having that is really nice. We have Synthesis to regain our HP, make sure that Venusaur is at a high amount of health to take the hits that it needs to. And then Giga Drain is just a really nice move to have as well. Super effective on Greninja and whatnot. Sleep Powder, I'm not really sure why Sleep Powder was put on there, but you know, we can put something to sleep if need be. So if there's anything else you are wondering about our sets, make sure to leave them down in the comments below, and I will get right to the battle. Alright, we're back with the battle now. You can see the team that he brought, you can see the team that I brought. I actually want to make sure real quick that when I start this, I'm on the other side, because that makes sense. We started it early. I'm gonna go through this game a lot quicker than I went through the week 1 game. I do, however, want to touch on lead choice here. So, when picking leads, you want to make sure that you lead off with something that is going to not put you in a horrible position right out of the gate. So, for example, the biggest threat to my team that he has, meaning the thing that if he leads off with it and I don't have a good matchup against that Pokemon on the first turn of the game, that would be Mega Gallade. If I don't have a good matchup against Mega Gallade on turn 1, then that is going to be very problematic for me. If I have to switch something into Mega Gallade to take a lot of damage from it, that's going to set me back, put me at a massive disadvantage early on in the game. So it's very important that I choose to lead with something that doesn't put me at such a big disadvantage early on. And so that's why I decided to lead with my Thundurus, because I know that it will outspeed his Mega Gallade and will be able to deal a lot of damage to it with the Power Herb Fly. However, he does lead with the Nidoqueen, which is likely just going to want to set the Stealth Rocks because, you know, the only thing that I can do to a Nidoqueen, there is a chance that I could have Psychic and deal on this Thundurus to deal super effective damage to Nidoqueen, but outside of that, I can't really do a ton of damage to it. So I'm going to click U-turn, expecting him to want to set up the Stealth Rocks on my side of the field. I'm going to make a very, very aggressive play and go into my Greninja, which is going to threaten this thing with a super effective Water type move and make him want to switch out. Now, I am not Choice Specs Greninja, but that is a very common item to run on Greninja. He doesn't know what item I am. For all he knows, I am Choice Specs Greninja, right? So, Choice Specs, of course, boosting my attack power by 1.5 times. However, at the cost of me only being able to use one move at a time. That's what choice items do. I can switch up my moves. He doesn't know that, so he's going to want to switch out, thinking that, you know, if I'm Specs, then I could kill his Nidoqueen right here, and he doesn't want to let his Nidoqueen die so early. So, either way, he does not have a very good switch-ins to my Greninja. He's going to be taking damage with something, and I'm going to be gradually chipping his team down. So the Como comes in. I can tell by the damage that Surf does that even if I click Ice Beam on the next turn, yes, it's super effective, but it's not going to be doing enough damage to kill the Kommo-o. So if it doesn't kill and he goes for a fighting type move to deal big damage to my Greninja, then that's not okay. So I need to switch out and make sure that I save my Greninja for later on in the game, because it does really well in this matchup. His only his only resist to water type moves is this Kommo-o, which I can hit with Ice Beam. So, like, for super effective damage, like, if I get that Greninja in the same position it was just in, and he switches in this Kommo-o to resist a water type move, well, now he's at closer to 50%, and an Ice Beam will be able to knock it out on that time. So, I bring in my Mimikyu, which has a very good matchup against Kommo-o basically every single time. And he actually pulls a double switch into this Zebstrika, and that's going to make me want to leave my Mimikyu in, because I know this Zebstrika is going for a Volt Switch on this turn. If I switch out wanting to keep Mimikyu's disguise intact, he's going to get a free switch into anything he wants. The only thing that I have to resist his Volt Switch is Mega Venusaur, and that means he can bring in Mega Gallade, which is something I don't want to see hit the field, because that means it's just going to deal massive damage to something on my team. So I'm wanting to avoid having the Mega Gallade come in as early as, like, I don't want it to come in. I don't want to give it an opening to come in and just destroy me. So that's why I decided to leave my Mimikyu in to take this Volt Switch. And I'm going to click Swords Dance, expecting him to want to go into the Rhydon to be able to take this thing on. I have Wood Hammer, so if I set up a Swords Dance here and then click Wood Hammer on the next turn, then I will, I think I can get rid of this Rhydon. However, the Rhydon actually lives this hit, because, and look how much recoil damage I took. That is ridiculous because of how high Rhydon's HP is. It just means, I dealt so much damage to him, I'm going to be taking so much recoil myself. So the Rindo Berry is the grass reducing berry, so it allows him to take less damage from a super effective grass type move. Instead of it being 4 times super effective, it is only 2 times super effective and just misses out on KOing the Rhydon. So that's very big for him. He's going to be able to survive that hit from the Mimikyu and knock me out. And now that my Mimikyu is gone, his Gallade and Kommo-o are even bigger threats against my team, because I don't have the Mimikyu to take them on anymore. But at least, because my Mimikyu goes down, I can bring in my Greninja, and I threaten a kill on this Rhydon. And if I get a kill, you know what that means. I get my Battle Bond boost, and he doesn't want me to get that boost, because otherwise, my attack stats are going to go through the roof, and I would basically be able to OHKO every single Mon on his team, except, no, that's not true. But now that he's at this range of health with his with the Gallade, I would be able to kill it with, that boost in attack from this range. But anyways, I don't want to harp on that too much. So he brings this thing in, saves the Rhydon. I again need to keep this Greninja for later. I don't have much to switch into a Mega Gallade, so the Thundurus is the least useful member on my team right now, I feel. I also don't think that Mega Venusaur is very useful in this matchup, but either way, we went into our Thundurus, because I was expecting him to go for a fighting type move. I was not expecting him to click Knockoff. To me, there was no drawback for him to click a fighting type move, unless he was expecting me to have a Power Herb on my Thundurus, which is not something that you commonly see, although he does know that that's what my item was now, because when you knock something off, you can see what it was. It says, there's a message that pops up on the screen that says the opposing lances a lot of women. Magic's nicknames or something else. The opposing lances a lot of women, knocked off Satan Taisei's power. That's a message that both players get to see. So now that my power herb is gone, it means if I want to click fly here, it's going to be a 2-turn attack. So I'm not going to click it then. Instead, I'm actually going to click defog to get rid of the stealth rocks on my side of the field to make sure my team isn't getting chipped down. And this Nidoqueen is going to come in again. And, you know, the first turn, I switched out my Thundurus into a Greninja, making a very aggressive play early on because I thought he was going to set rocks. So I'm not going to make that same switch again. It's very obvious that, you know, that's the move that I tried to make the first time. He's not going to want to let that happen again. He's not going to want to let me get in my Greninja. Similar to how I don't want to let him get Mega Gallade in. He doesn't want me to get Greninja in. Neither of us want to allow our biggest threats to each other's team to hit the field. It's basically, you know, that's how we try not to lose the games. So instead I bring in my Bronzong. It, thanks to its Levitate ability, is immune to the Earth Power that he goes for. Now he's going to go for a Taunt to prevent me from setting rocks on his side of the field. But I actually just went for the attacking move and Psychic to make sure that I get I get enough damage off on this thing so that I can kill it with the Greninja later or kill it with my Haxorus. And then on the next turn, I actually went for a Gyro Ball instead of a Psychic, even though I know that Psychic would do more damage to the Nidoqueen. However, Psychic only did 36% to the Nidoqueen, and at the end of the turn, it recovered a little bit of its HP with Black Sludge. So, to me, it looks like that 2 more Psychics is not going to be enough to KO the Nidoqueen if he is choosing to leave it in. So, I clicked Gyro Ball on the off chance he brought in the Mega Gallade, because Gyro Ball is going to be doing much more damage to Mega Gallade than Psychic would. And its Gyro Ball still does enough damage to the point where if I click Psychic 2 more times with my Bronzong, then I can kill the Nidoqueen, right? So, you know, very low drawback play and you know, low drawback gamble for me is basically what I'm trying to say. So right here, as he sets up the Stealth Rocks, my Occa Berry is going to come into play, because we'll now see all 4 of his Nidoqueen's moves. Flamethrower, we take only 13% instead of 26% or whatever from that hit. So that is going to come into play later on. That Occa Berry helped us live hits from his team. So Taunt on my Bronzong runs out, so I know now that he's going to either want to click Taunt again to prevent me from setting rocks on his side, or he's just going to go for another Flamethrower to get some damage off, or, you know, maybe he switches out, but that wasn't something that I was thinking that he could do. Either way, I know that bringing in Greninja here is safe, because, you know, if I take some damage, a little bit of damage from Flamethrower, that's okay. I resist it. It's not a very powerful attack against me. You know, I'm pretty confident he's not going to click Earth Power against my Bronzong, because it would do no damage to Bronzong. So I can get my Greninja in here to kind of force his hand a little bit. I need to, you know, if he doesn't want Greninja to get a kill and to get its Battle Bond off, then he's going to have to switch something else in to get weakened. And the only thing really at this point that can switch into Greninja is going to be this Eternal Floette. So that's what's going to come in now. I'll get a little bit of damage off against this thing. I don't know what this thing's item is. Either way, I know that I can't kill it with another attack, so I have to switch out into my Bronzong. You see, that's a resisted attack, and it still does that much damage to a max specially defensive Bronzong. That's how strong Light Up Ruin is. And because of my Occa Berry reducing the damage from Nidoqueen's Flamethrower, I'm actually going to be able to live 2 attacks from this Eternal Floette. If I didn't have my Occa Berry, I would not have been able to live that second attack, and I would not have been able to get these Stealth Rocks up on his side of the field. Now the reason why I didn't click Stealth Rocks in front of the Nidoqueen at first was because, one, I knew there was a chance that he could have Taunt and prevent me from getting the rocks up in the first place, and two, I didn't want to allow him to do this, to bring in the Rhydon so that it can die to rocks and he can get a free switch into something else on his team. However, that was not the turn that I was expecting him to make that play. What I'm saying is, if I got rocks up and then I got Greninja in later to in a position where it could get a kill on one of his Pokemon, you know, he brings in the Rhydon, it takes 5% from the rocks and goes down. Greninja doesn't get the kill and doesn't get its stat boost from Battle Bond. So that's why I didn't set the Stealth Rocks at first. However, I did want to get the rocks up with this Bronzong as it was getting lower in HP, so that I could get the chip damage off against things like his Mega Glade, things like his Zebstrika as well, and the Kommo-o as well. Like basically everything that wasn't Nidoqueen, Stealth Rocks damage was going to help against that, because, you know, Nidoqueen was already weakened sufficiently. Everything else I could have used a little bit more damage against. So, Magic makes a very bad decision here, not gonna lie. It's a bad decision to go into this Kommo-o. He's seen that I have Psychic on this Bronzong to be able to deal super effective damage to this Kommo-o, and he's going for the Clangorous Soul. He's going for a setup move. He's, you know, trying to put himself in a position to sweep through the rest of my team, but that's not going to happen here because Psychic is actually strong enough to knock out his Kommo-o even after a +1 boost in special defense, and that's really huge for me to get that thing out of the picture. That is why you run Psychic on Bronzong in this matchup, because you don't want to allow Kommo-o to set up all of those boosts in your face for free. Anyways, the Floette comes back in to knock out my Bronzong. I now 100% get a kill with Greninja. There is nothing he can do to prevent Greninja from getting its Battle Bond now. You know, this Mega Glade, there's a good chance that it was in range to die to an attack from my Greninja now that it got its stat boost. However, I saved this Thundurus for this very reason, to use it as a sacrifice when Mega Glade came in, because, you know, Thundurus, it wasn't doing anything anymore in this game because he got the rocks back up, so the next time Thundurus came in, it was guaranteed to die to the rocks. There was nothing that I could do to get rid of them, so it is my sacrifice to this Glade every single time. So now that Thundurus goes down, I can get a free switch into my Life Orb Haxorus, which this is going to give me the guaranteed win, because, you know, in case there was any chance that this Mega Glade had to live a hit from my Greninja, I can always bring in my Haxorus, which has a very powerful priority move to hit this Glade with, and it in fact knocks him out. It does just the right amount of damage that it needed to knock out his Glade. And at this point, Haxorus is actually going to be able to kill everything that he has left. The Nidoqueen is very low, and it will die to an Earthquake. And the Zebstrika, being an Electric type, doesn't have very good moves to hit Dragon types for a lot of damage, so it's also going to die to the Earthquake. And we end up winning this game 3-0 and improving to 2-0 on the season. So good game to Magic. If you have any questions about, you know, I feel like I sound like a broken record asking if you guys have any questions, but yeah, how about if you just enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel to keep up with all of our Draft League content, and stay tuned for more NCL uploads coming your way next Wednesday.